The color grading workflow has been reimagined and redesigned for Vegas Pro 23. In addition to being more flexible and easier to use, the color grading window and workflow are now supercharged by the new Vegas Core engine to provide smooth preview playback and higher color accuracy. While the fundamental operations and techniques have not changed significantly, playback performance while previewing color-graded sections of your project has dramatically accelerated. The user experience has also been greatly improved with a completely new approach to the tool's user interface. The color grading window now uses the familiar docking window architecture that you're used to with other windows like the Explorer window, if you've used Vegas Pro before. In the default Vegas Pro UI configuration, the docking area now contains the color grading window. Click the Color Grading tab to bring the window to the front. The window has several sections that contain various color controls. When it first opens, you see the RL color wheels. Remember, the window has all the normal docking capabilities of any other dockable window, so if you want to resize it, you can do so within the docking area, or undock it and position it as a floating window anywhere on your computer screens. We'll proceed here as if we decided to leave it docked. For the most part, the controls themselves function as they always have, so here we'll concentrate on what's different about this window than the old panel from previous versions. However, some significant functional improvements have been made to both the color wheels and curves, and we'll talk about those here too. The list of sections on the left shows that, unless you've selected something else, RL color wheels is highlighted and is the currently active section. Thus, you see the RL color wheels controls on the right. To choose a different set of controls, click a name in the list. For example, click Color Wheels in the list to view the color wheel controls to the right. Click the Color Wheels Expand arrow. This shows you a list of all the individual controls in that section. With the color wheel section selected, you see all 4 color wheels. But you can also show just one wheel. For instance, to see just the offset wheel, click Offset from the list. Notice that the toggle buttons that enable you to switch between wheel view and slider view have been positioned next to the wheel names in the list. A Toggle All Views button next to both the color wheels and the RL color wheels heading enables you to switch between the slider view and wheel view for all of the windows in each category. To access the Toggle All Views button, point your mouse to the color wheels or RL color wheels heading. When the button appears, click it to change the controls to the sliders. Click it again to switch back to the wheels. The color wheels themselves have changed a bit to provide even more precise control over the adjustments you make. With the color wheels section still filtered so you see only the offset wheel, drag the wheel's control handle toward a color that you want to add to your footage. This provides the most general, that is, lowest precision way to use the wheel to adjust your colors. With this method, relatively small mouse movements make large color adjustments. Next, drag the wheel itself, in other words, drag somewhere within the wheel but not the control handle, for more precise movements. Now your mouse movements need to be larger to make significant adjustments. Finally, for the most precision, hold the Control key as you drag either the wheel or the control handle. With this technique, you can make extremely fine color adjustments, and small adjustments require very large mouse movements. You can also make adjustments to the wheels with your keyboard arrow keys, which give you fine control over the hue and saturation settings. Click the Reset button to set the offset wheel back to its default settings. Now press the Up arrow key. This moves the wheel's control point up toward the red. As usual, the further away from the center you move the control point, the higher the saturation of the chosen hue. In this case, you're moving toward the red hue, so the farther you move from the center, the more saturated the red becomes. Press the Down arrow key. This lowers the saturation level. Use the up and down arrow keys to set the control toward the red hue about halfway between the center and the edge of the wheel. Remember, with all of these adjustments, hold the Control key to make finer movements. Now press the right arrow key. This moves the control point to the right. Press the left arrow key to move the point to the left. Moving the control point left and right with these keys changes the hue of the adjustment, but these right and left adjustments also change the saturation level since you're moving in a straight line toward the edge of the wheel. Likewise, as you saw earlier, the up and down movements change the hue as well as the saturation. You can also combine 2 keys for diagonal adjustments. For instance, press the down and left arrow keys simultaneously to move the point diagonally down and to the left. Use any combination of these key shortcuts to position the control point somewhere in the upper left quadrant of the wheel toward the yellow, with the saturation about halfway between the center and the edge of the wheel. If you've specified your hue and saturation in this way, and you want to change one without changing the other, you can modify the behavior of the arrow keys with the Shift key. For instance, now that you've set your hue toward the yellow, press Shift plus up arrow. This increases the saturation, moves the control point toward the edge of the wheel. But the Shift key limits the movement to saturation only, so you do not change the hue. Press Shift plus down arrow to move the control point back toward the center of the wheel, thus lowering the saturation without affecting the hue. It's also possible to change the hue without affecting the saturation level. Press Shift plus right arrow. This rotates the control point around the center of the wheel in a clockwise direction, so that you change the hue without affecting the saturation level. As you hold these keys, notice that the control point never gets closer to or further away from the edge of the wheel. Now press Shift plus left arrow to rotate the control point in a counterclockwise direction. Note that all these shortcuts and techniques work for both the color wheels and the RL color wheels. Now let's take a look at the other sections of the color grading window. Click the LUTs list item. This section now contains both camera and look LUT controls. Again, you can expand this section and select one of them from the list if you want to see only the controls for that one. To choose a LUT, click the None thumbnail, or if you've already been experimenting, click the thumbnail for the currently selected LUT. Scroll through the drop-down list and select the LUT you want to apply. Click the RL color wheels list item. Here, notice that the Show Limits on Scopes button now appears beneath the threshold slider controls and lower value display field. Click Utilities from the list. Now, click the Utilities Expand button. Notice that the HSL controls now exist in this section instead of in a separate tab as they did in past versions. Finally, click the Curves list item and then the Curves Expand button. Because users often want instant access to the curves regardless of what other tool they have open, you can pin the curves so that they always remain open. For instance, click the Color Curves Pin Curve button. Now select Color Wheels from the list of sections. You can now see your color wheels as expected, but can also still access the color curves pinned below the wheels. Click the Color Curves Pin Curve button again to hide the color curves. Select Color Curves from the list again. The color curves now enable you to zoom into and out of the curve grid and to pan to adjust the viewable area if you've zoomed in too far to see it entirely. This helps you control the curve handles that leave the visible area. For instance, drag the curve handle for the upper curve as high as you can. You can see that even though the handle and the curve leave the visible area, you can continue to drag them and change the shape of the curve. Release the mouse button. Now, you can no longer see, or therefore adjust, the curve handle. Click the Zoom Out button repeatedly until you see your complete curve and the handle again. Now click the Zoom In button several times until you can see only a small portion of the curve. Click away from the curve and drag the curve view to pan your view so that you can see the portion you want to work with. Once you finish experimenting, click the Center button to center your view and reset it to normal size. Use the Zoom buttons or your mouse scroll wheel to get the zoom level you want. Several new shortcuts give you even more control over curve adjustments. First, on your keyboard number pad with numlock on, press the plus key to zoom into the curve. Then press the minus key to zoom back out. To quickly get back to the normal zoom level, press your number pad 5 key. Zoom into the curve again so that you can't see all of it. Now you can use the number pad 8 key to pan the view up, the 6 key to pan left, the 4 key to pan right, and the 2 key to pan down. You can also use keyboard shortcuts to adjust points on the curve. Double-click the curve between the two endpoints to create a new point. Press the page up key to move to and select the next point to the right, and the page down key to move to and select the next point to the left. Select the middle point. Hold the Shift key and press the arrow keys to adjust the point's left tangent. Hold Ctrl plus Shift and press the arrow keys to adjust the right tangent. At the moment, the tangents are locked so that when you adjust one, you also affect the other. Right-click the point and note the various options in the context menu. To adjust the point's tangents individually, deselect the Lock Tangents checkbox and repeat the shortcuts above.